What's up, everybody? It's your favorite gifted youngster's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at Marvel Legends X-Men Wave with the Juggernaut Build-A-Figure. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be straight honest, straight away. This is the most excited I've ever been for a Hasbro product. Whether or not that excitement is merited, we'll be finding out here shortly. So let's start with our favorite bub. And there's some good and some bad here. Overall, pretty much good, but he does come with 2 extra hands, fist hands with no claws, so that's nice to have, especially because, you know, the Marvel Legend Wolverine Claw Curse, which we'll talk about here in a bit. So, it's really close to being great. It's still okay. The head is on a ball hinge. We get up to there, and pretty much keeps the sculpt together, I'd say, and down to there and pretty much does the same, so that's good. And what is this? It's black. So it's black plastic, and then the yellow is painted on, and it's done fairly well. Little dodgy here and there, but for the most part, fairly well. Skin tones are all painted well. White eyes looking great. They look silvery, but it doesn't bother me. Not in the least. Pretty good head sculpt. I like it. I like it a lot. I love the scale of the figure. Like, he's a little short, and that's kind of how I view Wolverine. If you grew up and read Marvel comics in the 90s, he was a little fella. There's some color issues here though, with colors matching. So it's not the biggest deal in the world, but if they would have gone the extra mile, it would have been nice. So we got this skin tone and that skin tone. They're not perfect, but they're pretty close. This yellow and this yellow are off. Way off. Now, they are disconnected by a red belt and the trunks and stuff, so it may not bother you. It's not the biggest deal, and I think on a shelf you might not notice, but definitely looking at it under the lights, you notice. But let's talk about it. So he's got this butterfly joint that works fantastic. Like, I love getting his, his claws way back. Like, he's, it's just very Wolverine. I love that. So it goes all the way forward to there, which is nice. And then all the way back to there. It's really a great range of motion. But it does require a lot of paint. Now, this side on the front is good. On the back, it's fair also, so that's pretty good. I would have liked if this suit here was sculpted instead of painted, but it'll do. And isn't it supposed to be a triangle, like a triangle shape and not like a circle shape? I don't know. That's how I remember it. Little paint smudge there. That's an individual revolts may vary thing. So, revolts, I think I said, which I meant to say results. So we have this brown hinge, which isn't perfect, but I understand why they did it. It's a disc hinge for the shoulder, so you get up to there, and then the swivel all the way around, the bicep swivel, double jointed elbow with the gloves once again painted, not sculpted, which is okay, but not preferred, right? But the paint is done fairly well there. Then you get the wrist swivel and a hinge in and out. No up and down hinge, but I think that's good because it's better in and out for the sake of the claws. Little iron, or not iron, what am I talking about? Blow dryer. You can straighten those claws out. They're a softer plastic. These are very well done. These are a little smushed up, as you can see. Articulation is the same though, and paint work is pretty much the same. On the chest, I think this is brown plastic as well, so the orange, just yellow is painted on. That line right there is a little off, but for the most part, it's still pretty clean. Ab crunch, the paint continues through, so that's nice. You get pretty much 1 click back, but it's not a proper click, and 2 clicks forward, but they're not proper clicks either. Waist swivel with the floating belt, so you can kind of hide the destruction of the sculpt, which is nice. And the belt buckle is painted, which is also nice. Trunks, all single color plastic, and they work fine. T-jointed ball joints get you out to there. Thigh swivel, which is fine. Double jointed knee, getting you the full Monty. And the boots. So, this is one of those things that they're doing that I'm okay with. So, you have a shin swivel or calf swivel, which I don't normally like, but they were able to put new boots on, so it makes it look a little bit more individualized. The black is painted well on the boot. The sculpting in the boots, like the little wrinkles and stuff, that looks good. Coming down to an ankle hinge, not much up for an ankle tilt, which would have been nice if you got a little bit more up, especially because you really want to, get him crouched in and stuff, and he has a hard time keeping his balance because his feet can't go forward just a little bit more, which is unfortunate, but not the biggest deal in the world. And the tilt goes all the way back to there, and then the ankle rocker is built in. So that's nice. Same for the other side, and the back of the figure is as you see. So all in all, it's a pretty cool Wolverine. Now we have Iceman. That's another one that's been a big gap in my collection. For the most part, he's pretty good. We're going to talk about one thing that kind of stresses me out. So the head sculpt, there's no paint, right? It's all this translucent plastic that sometimes feels a bit gummy in places, which is a little strange, but not the worst thing in the world. And like the translucent is a little different between the chest and the hips and then the legs and the arms, which is a little off-putting. But I think on a shelf, it may not bother you. The more I look at it, the more it's bothering me. You get this piece that plugs into his back, so you can have like almost a more traditional Iceman if you don't like this piece, which is a nice touch. We'll leave it on for now, though. So it doesn't sit as flush as you'd like it to either. So the head is on a ball joint, as you can see. It's on a ball hinge. Goes back to there, down to there, with the head on. Kind of destroys the sculpt, going back to a ridiculous angle, but not the worst. And then the same going down. So this butterfly joint is strange. First of all, okay, so the way they did this, from what I can see, this butterfly joint plugs in to the bottom of the torso, but not to the top of the shoulder. So it feels a little, let me see if I can take this off, show you. You see that? That sucks. I wish it plugged into the bottom and the top, which would have made the figure feel a little bit more secure. As of right now, it doesn't feel super secure. So, just pointing that out. I'm not crazy about that. And it feels a little gummy, too, which doesn't help. So then the joint in, disc hinge, up to there, swivels all the way around. Bicep swivel, that works fine. Double jointed elbow, that works fine. It's a tight. Some of these joints on this particular figure are especially tight. Wrist swivel, hinge in and out, which works just well for the hand pose, which is a like a posing hand, like a power using hand. And then you got a little bit of ice sculpted in the forearm, which is nice and unexpected. Same for the other side, including the forearms. And this one hand is a fist, and the hinge is in and out. Ab crunch, back, forward. So decent range. Nothing to be mad at. Waist swivel that destroys the sculpt. You know, as we've seen before. We've seen this, I think, this before. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure it's a Spider-Man buck, so to speak. T-jointed ball joints get you out to there. Forward to there. Back to there. Thigh swivel, which is extremely tight on both sides. And double jointed knee, getting you the full Monty. We have ice sculpted in the bottom part of his leg as well, which is a nice touch. Makes it unique, and I dig it. Coming out to feet, and you get a hinge here, so you get an ankle tilt down to there, up to there, which is nice, and then a rocker built in. So all that works pretty well. Overall, pretty decent, but just a few strange things going on, but not a bad figure. And we have Havoc. This figure is pretty much okay. The biggest problem with him are the accessories, which we'll go ahead and get right out of the way. They don't really clip onto the arms. But I do like them, and I like the paint effect from the more intense power, which kind of matches the silver on his hands, down to the more fully translucent blue. When I think of Havoc, I don't think of blue. I think of yellow, but maybe that's some new Havoc stuff I don't quite know about. But it doesn't clip onto his wrist very well, as you can see. But they look cool. They just don't work. All right, head, so to speak. Pretty decent head sculpt. Not my favorite Havoc design, but better to have this Havoc design than no Havoc design at all. Ball hinge gets you up to there and keeps the sculpt pretty much intact. Down to there, and pretty much the same thing. Swivel, of course, works fine. The Paint on the face looks really good, including the eyes, which looks like especially good for a Marvel Legend, I must say. The silver is a little shoddy paint-wise around the edges, but for the most part, it's done pretty well, and that piece is sculpted, as is the little gem in the front of his forehead. This is tampered paint. I think this symbol here, it has a little white in the center of it to kind of give that illusion of power. That looks good, but we do have blue that got out of the lines and all sorts on his shoulder here. That's an individual results will vary kind of thing, but that's how it is on mine. Ab crunch, one click back, one click forward. Sculpt pretty much continues throughout. Other than that, it's pretty much a black plastic figure with a few things painted on, including silver stripes here and here. These silver stripes on his waist. The hands are silver, and then these cuffs are silver around his gloves. So I'm not going to talk too much about that because the paint is fair. These ankle ones are a lot cleaner than the ones around the top, but they're still not bad. So we're just going to go through the articulation on this guy. Waist swivel. It gets caught up on something. I noticed that on the last batch I looked at too. Same sort of deal. Disc hinge shoulders. Get you up to there, and then of course you can swivel. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, wrist swivel, hinge in and out on a fist. Same exact thing on this arm. Hips, T-jointed ball joints, get you out to there, which is really good. Forward to there, back to there, thigh swivel, double jointed knee, full Monty. Calf swivel, which I think is stupid, but I'm getting on board because they're starting to do little independent things with each calf, and I'm okay with that. And then ankle tilt, both good up and down, and the rocker is built in. So yeah, no complaints other than the accessories and some shoddy kind of QC stuff paint wise. And last but certainly not least, the long-awaited, highly anticipated Rogue figure. Most people have been wanting an updated Rogue figure forever, and we have one, and overall it's good. I just have one little gripe. We'll say two. Let's go. So she comes with an extra hand, I got my glove off, I'm going to take your powers hand. Smart and well done. The figure. Okay, we're just going to go top to bottom on this one. One of the big problems that plagues this is paint issues. The green doesn't cover the yellow here. And it seems like when it was sitting 50-50, there was like an indentation on this hip where the paint is, you can see the effects of the paint there. Can you see that? Right there. And it's the same on this side. So something was wrong when this was painted or molded. I would imagine that they're probably all that way. I got little paint problems down here in the knees too with the green. Basically, there's green issues. So the hair is a little... it's a little stubborn, a little bit more stubborn than I would like it to be. And the way it kind of flows out of the way there behind the ear, it looks a little unnatural. Like it doesn't, it seems like it was sculpted to fit around a shoulder or something, but there's no shoulder or anything to sit behind. So it just looks weird. It's painted well enough with the white bits on top, and this green thing is sculpted, and that's painted. Well, this is glued in. It's a separate piece glued into a sculpted headband, but that looks fine. And the face looks good, and the paint on the face looks good, and all that stuff. And I even like how they brought the black eyeliner down around the bottom of the eye on that one, and this one they don't always do that, and it looked good. So I highly recommend they continue. It's on a ball peg, limited articulation mainly because of the hair, but that's what it's on. We got the coat, which is a separate piece sitting on top, and then underneath the coat they try to paint as much as they could brown so that there wouldn't be any obvious signs of break and sculpt. The black on the yellow looks really good. The little design both on the chest and the little things that come out right below the clavicle. And then we have ball hinge shoulders to get you up to there. The X on the shoulders are painted well. The sculpt of the jacket is all done well. And then you get the swivel, of course. No bicep swivel, but you get the elbow swivel. That works fine at a 90-degree hinge. Single hinge for the elbow, and then the wrist hinge. The gloves are sculpted on, and hinge in out. Swivel for the wrist, hinge in out for the fist. Same for this side. Identical. The belt is floating and it's a little baggy, as it should be, so that looks good. T-jointed ball joints for hips, they go out to there. Little limited, but it'll do. Up to there. So that's good. Back to there, which is fine. Thigh swivel, they work well. Double jointed knee, that works well, but this is my biggest issue with this figure. So instead of sculpting a knee pad on, which they can't really do because of this pin here, they did this. There are like 2 floating pieces. So you get the bottom part of the boot that's a floating piece, and then the top part of the boot that's a floating piece, and it's just kind of obnoxious. I don't like the way that was really done at all. It'll do. I just definitely am not crazy about it. The green is painted on there. Just not the best. And then the yellow was painted on top of the green to kind of also add to the boot. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't like it. I can tell you that. Ankle hinge, getting you a tilt back to there, but not much forward, and then the rocker is built in. So all in all, a pretty good figure, minus some paint issues. That's going to be an independent, individual results will vary kind of thing. And these knee things and the hair is a little strange. But outside of that, I'm definitely happy to have her in my collection. And we're not going to do a skit today, but we're going to do a little collection showcase because I've been waiting a long time to have like my proper 90s X-Men complete, and I basically do now. This is my Marvel X-Men shelf, and I got them split up into like, the original blue and gold team, and that's complete with the exception of Forge and like some little like obscure characters. Like I guess you could put Dazzler in there and stuff, but it's a mix of some of the Toy Biz ones and some of the old Legends and some of the new Legends, and then Colossus is a select. I just like that select Colossus better than the current available Marvel Legends one. More or less complete. At least complete with stand-ins. I'd like to get a modern day Psylocke and a Bishop and an X-23. And I would like to replace that Cyclops. That's just not my favorite Cyclops design. But overall, pretty happy with this. Ultimately, I think that they're all worth getting. There's just, for the most part, they're pretty good. Just to re-emphasize across the board, we got some paint issues here, and I wish the ankle tilts allowed the ankle to move up a bit more. The shoulders on Bobby are strange, and there's a difference between the translucent plastics and the limbs versus the torso. Rogue's hair, paint, and knees are problematic, otherwise good to go, and Havoc is pretty much just a paint issue and a design issue, and that's personal preference. This set's going to be hard to get, I would imagine. So you're going to have to be on your hunting game or have it pre-ordered somewhere or squared away somehow. But if you're an X-Men fan, you got to do what you got to do, Mac. I wish you all the best of luck tracking these down. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.